nothing left but to go live.
Oh, baby.
All right, share my screen. Switch this over. Here we go.
Welcome to episode 202 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Today is August the 9th, 2015. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and coming in at 1/4 of Fantastic is my brother, James Furlo.
That did come out this week.
Yes, it did.
I am continuing my tradition of never seeing the Fantastic Four movies.
That is probably a good decision.
Was it not good? I heard it was like fixed everything.
Oh man, this is fun. Let's just go and take a little. No. Let's start here. We're gonna go to Box Office Mojo first, which is my favorite website for looking at how much money movies have made. Fantastic Four on its opening weekend does not have a production budget stated, but it made $26 million. That's pretty good. Worldwide, it made $60 million. That's it's nothing to scoff at. Mission Impossible: Rogue Nations made it $29 million in the same time period. So they beat the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
opening weekend. And just
Tom Cruise doing his own stunts. Come on, you can't pass that up.
I know. Well, yeah.
They only made 29.
Yeah. Right? Well, no. Mission Impossible made 29.
Right.
But the second weekend, they've already made $265 million. Yes.
There we go.
Weekend too. So on the because if you remember, that was our Rotten Tomatoes. We're going to comparisons this weekend. So give you the spread. Ant-Man was at 79%,
which is hilarious
on Rotten Tomatoes. It was hilarious. It was great. Very good. Minions only came in at 54%. Inside Out came in at 98%. Very well.
I heard that was good.
Jurassic Park came in at 71%. World came in at 71%. Okay. We're just talking this summer's. Pixels, which is the movie that came out 2 weekends ago, Adam Sandler's, that one just bombed because it only got 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fantastic Four is clocking in at 8%.
8?
8. Not 80.
This reminds me.
Not 18.
Oh my gosh. This has become important later on. I remember when we enabled this data at HP to be able to track our aftermarket share numbers. And we reasonably believe that like in the United States, we're sitting nice and high. And then in Asia, it's like low, like mid 30s. We did the Korea stuff and it came in at 8%. And everyone was like, must be a data error. That can't be right. No, it was right. It was that bad. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit later about that and some of the responses companies have had to this new phenomenon. But 8. That's wow. So it sounds like I didn't miss much. Wow. Yeah. Now I kind of want to see it just to see how bad the train wreck was.
I know. Well, and just to give you a little bit of context, the Marvel's The Avengers opening weekend. So obviously they made $26 million. Marvel's The Avengers opening weekend made $207 million. Jurassic World made $208. Age of Ultron made $191. Iron Man 3 made $174. Iron Man 2 made $128. Minions, which got 54 on Rotten Tomatoes, made $115. Inside Out only made 90. But come on,
how did can you oh my gosh, what was it? Can you look up I've totally blanked on it now.
I don't know.
Never mind. No need to look it up.
Blue Aliens? Avatar?
No. Oh yeah, I remember now. Guardians of the Galaxy. What did that one do?
Because Guardians of the Galaxy beat Inside Out for opening weekend at $94 million.
94, huh? That's it. Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. They made $330 million. Yeah. I mean, think about that.
Fantastic Four is that bad? How do you? It must just be a bad storyline, or
yeah,
just
you know what?
Translate well into.
I actually think that that's the case. And I think so just to give you a little bit of context for what Fantastic Four is, it was really Stan Lee's first big production in the comic book world. It's his first entry. And what he wrote was a story of, it was 4 characters. Each one had unique powers that alone were cool, but not really great. But if you put them all together and they all worked together, they could do something truly fantastic. But this is the kicker. He gave them strife. He made them real people with real, or I should say, he gave them internal conflict within the group. He permanently marred one of them and called them the Thing. He gave them these relationship dynamics that made it hard for them to get along and things that they had to overcome. But they were really pretty one-dimensional. They had like one big conflict, one superpower, and they just kind of went about doing their business. And within like 2 superheroes, Stan Lee had made Spider-Man, who was first a teenager and second a superhero. And that was really what became the standard for what it meant to make, to give them more, like to give them depth of character and to humanize them. And Spider-Man was so brilliant because his audience were teenage boys, and he made the main character a teenage boy who dealt with teenage boy problems. Well, that was what he was when he would write it eventually. And so it just hit such a massive chord that it blew everybody's mind. But Fantastic Four really holds a place in everybody's heart because it was the first of the really truly complex superheroes, even though comparably they're pretty bland. And they're still pretty bland.
and the directors just didn't have, or the writers didn't have the ability to add more depth to it just because of the folklore, huh?
I guess. I love these sorts of reviews. If you would like to admire the awfulness of Fantastic Four without actually having to sit through it, or if you've already seen the movie and are reeling from the experience, read on there's nothing at the end, said the cleaning crew as the credits rolled. How right they were.
Oh my gosh, how right. I love commenters.
I know. It's not wholesale terrible, just depressingly mediocre. And at a certain point, you sort of start wishing it were definitively terrible, because that would be at least make it a more entertaining, to give it a certain strange raison d'etat, or whatever that French word is for a reason to be.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, oh man.
So did you actually see it?
I didn't. Oh geez, are you kidding me? I haven't seen Rogue Nation yet. I wasn't gonna.
Okay.
I do think I probably will never see it, to be honest. I think it's the first of the cinematic universe that I'm gonna just not see. Not because I haven't seen all of them in theater, but I've definitely seen them all, and they broke it, and they broke it. You've gone too far.
This would be their first
major flop.
Well, I guess it's not part of that Marvel. It's separate, I guess. Or is it?
The whole point of rebooting it is that they're foundational members of the Avengers.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So they're okay, man.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Weird, man. Weird.
Yep. But you know what, James? We're not here to talk about terrible movies. Yeah, let's be honest, we kind of are. But really and truly, this week, like every week, we'll be talking about technology and the continuing corporate opera. By that, we mean the soap opera of corporations' dealings back and forth, the people working for them, their marketing campaigns, and of course, the technology they are developing. But before we get into the heart of the show, James got a short disclosure that I think is especially important today that he wants to throw your way.
Yeah, I do. I work for HP, but do not represent HP or any of HP's opinions. I also own Twitter and Etsy, so I'm massively biased with those two. I guess technically I own HP stock too, but yeah.
Hey, at least you're honest. I've got a disclosure I got to throw your way too. I own a bunch of different stocks. It's pretty cool. They're all tech stocks. They're not making me any money right now because they hate me. I got Facebook, Microsoft, Yahoo, Box, eBay, Twitter, Applied Materials, Skullcandy, Intel Corporation, PayPal, and GoPro. Was the current list. It's kind of fun, but they made me like $40 that first week when I bought them all, and they all plunged and just can't get back up. I think they're waiting for.
And they plunged because you bought them.
I think so. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm the cooler. But yeah. So
this is why, PS, by the way, I would love to get into options trading just because you could take advantage of that kind of stuff. It would be amazing. With like the puts and the takes. Oh, puts and calls. Money, there we go.
I was gonna say, I don't know what a take is, but
a call.
A take is where you take all of everybody's money. That's the point.
Yeah. It's a gambling thing.
Yes, exactly.
I could get into massive trouble with that. Here's how I would pitch it. I would start a blog, which is like James learns about options, and then I would just share what I do and what I learn and how it all works out, and that would be the blog. And I would just do daily updates or something like that, and it would be fantastic. And I may be like, I might lose it all. I may not. Make the trades with me. Let's have fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. If we lose money,
and it would start off with like, I'd be like, I'm fairly decent at math. I know enough to really get myself into trouble, but not enough to know how to actually go about buying any options. So that's good. And so and that would be my baseline, and it would just be an adventure. And I'd be like, I might lose. I don't know how much I might lose. Some money.
Yeah.
The goal is to not. Yeah, and I would just chronicle my experience. That is like, okay, so let's just pretend that in the future I make it big time, and I have like, I don't know, 10 grand to mess around with because I feel like I would need that much, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And
you're not gonna put a down payment on a car with that. You're gonna
no. Instead, though, like to me, I'm like, that would be fun to learn how to options trade on just money I don't care about. Which is like, that's a total like math nerd thing to say, I realize, but that's what I would do. And then I would chronicle it. I totally would. It'd be fun. Okay. So are we still in the disclosure section?
Right. Well, no, I was about to move on to the whole, y'all should follow us on the internet. We're pretty cool. My Twitter's at Matthew D. Furlo. My Instagram is NextWiggin4, NEXTWIGGIN4. Check her out.
I am James Furlo at Twitter, online, and all sorts of other fun places, including the Instagram.
On Google. Including Insta.
Yeah.
So if you want to know more about the show, all the articles that we talk about, all the clicks, links, videos, sound bites, what if skis, just check it out. It's all on furlobros.com. That's the center of our digital universe. If we have any contests going on, you can find them there. By the time you will be listening to this episode, we won't have a contest going, but
it's already over.
Okay. Yes. Well, yeah, it's because it's Monday morning, right? No, it's actually totally over.
No, it's like it's already done. Yeah.
Okay.
I had it end before the show ended.
I want to know the results of our $200 giveaway.
Okay. All right. So we'll start off. We'll do some warm ups here. So for when you did it, part of it was to gain fans and followers. Let's be honest about it. Thank you, new listeners. So now we have some new Twitter followers. We have 261 followers.
Woo, that's a lot of followers.
I think we had like 5 before.
Gonna have to start tweeting more.
On the Facebook, we now have 209 page likes, so that's cool. Which nice. I think before then, it's hard to read this graph that Facebook has, but I think we were above 30, but not significant, which is cool. Okay, so now for the fun part. All right, contestants, there were a lot of you. Do you even want to hazard a guess?
1,200.
Seriously? It's like you're not even trying.
I don't know.
2,600.
Whoa.
And 1.
And 1. Whoa. So you stopped giving me updates around 1,000, so I didn't really know what to do with that.
I stopped looking.
That's so, okay. All right.
I was like, this is a good number of people. 13,000 entries. Woo! Technically, and let's do a little. That didn't work, did it? Yeah, that worked. Let's see here. Data. Sort. Custom sort. Sort by entries. Let's see who our biggest person was. Holy cow. It was, it's different than who it was last time. Wow, that person fell to 3rd place. I don't want to say their email address, but they had 6,300 referrals.
Nice.
So there you go. Crazy time. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to put this away because it's massively distracting to me. What we'll do is we'll pick the person, the 2 people after this show. And
how are we doing that? Because, what if I win? I just want to I want everybody to make.
Enter?
No.
Then was I supposed to win?
Was I supposed to? No. I was going to ask, yeah, what is the method that we're going to use for it?
Oh, in the plugin that we're using, it does it for you.
Oh, nice.
You say select winner and it does it.
All right, cool. We don't want to do that.
I am
now. I guess it doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't want to say their email address over the podcast.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So no, I'm not going to.
So it's going to be coming your way. We'll let you know. Get excited.
Yeah. Or hopefully it's already come your way if you're listening to this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I think for the person, what I would like to do for the person who did give us the most, who has the most entries, I think it'd be fun to do something nice for that person too. Yeah. So you and I will have to talk about that little bonus. Okay. I don't know what that might be. So yeah, so super awesome. Thank you everybody for helping us celebrate the 200th episode by letting us give away a couple gift cards. Totally awesome. Super exciting. The results were fantastic. Just in terms of the number of people who were interested in the gift cards. And let's be honest. It's super awesome. And so we'll have to talk about maybe doing more of that kind of stuff.
And if you're a new listener to the show, we got a comment section. Feel free to participate on the website and just let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear it. Complain, whine, whatever. We don't care. We just want to hear it. We want to hear you. We just want you. We want to engage. So go ahead and do it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, totally.
I just winked at
20 minutes in. Let's talk about tech.
Cool. Yeah. Jeez. So speaking of users and user bases, I knew that this would be an easy transition. Guess who just crossed the 1 million digital only subscribers?
Netflix.
No, they did that a while ago. Actually, it is the New York Times. They now have over 4 years since their paywall was raised. They have now over 1 million digital subscribers. Digital only subscribers.
Clapping for him.
I know. Well, and it's actually kind of a big deal because you know, the fear of the end of written media or slash the reality of it. People aren't printing newspapers anymore or anything really, but specifically newspapers.
Come on. Talk about that later.
Sorry. But yeah, so they decided that they needed to bring it to paywall because their fear was that they couldn't generate enough revenue simply through advertising, and they wanted to be able to stay somewhat independent of their advertisers too. So they set out boldly, raised the paywall, and told people, you want more than 1 or 2 articles a week, month, you're gonna have to pay for it. And yeah, 1 million's pretty good. Those are pretty good numbers. And I don't know, it's interesting from a watching that the slow turn from the necessity for everything on the internet to be free to the evolution to it being us being okay with paying for stuff slowly but surely. And I still just read synopses of the New York Times articles and Wall Street Journal articles from other blogs that are reposting just the pertinent parts, but I'm glad somebody's paying for them.
I have never been tempted to pay for the New York Times, but there are other ones that I have been tempted to pay for to get access to their content.
The Wall Street Journal,
I remain
Business Insider.
Yeah, Business Insider. That's totally it. Business Weekly. No, Pando Daily actually is the one.
Oh yeah.
Because I actually think they write. It's different. It's a totally different set of writing than anywhere else on the web, and it's pretty good. But no, I'm not tempted yet, man. So you could do. How does that even work? Web and smartphones for $3.75 per week. Web and tablets for $5 per week, or all digital platforms for $8.75. Huh. Okay. Per week, dude. $8.75 per week. That sounds like a lot to me.
It feels like a lot to me. $30 a month.
I mean, like, yeah. Is that what that comes out to? Ish.
32. Yeah. A little over.
See, I would think like, and I think like what Pando does is $10 a month or $100 a year. I think
that seems, that seems like
it feels like the standard to me.
Yeah, it feels like what everybody's willing to pay. Well, and I guess their response would be that, well, then just get it on the platforms you want. Focus. That's their point.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It doesn't have to be that expensive. It only has to be $12 a month.
I think it's interesting that it's totally superfluous too, that they, it's like fake that you have to pay for different platforms. I mean, I get, at least for the digital only, right? I mean, it's like, it doesn't cost you more to do that. And it's all responsive layout anyway. So it's not like you laid it out twice. And even if you did, big deal, sunk cost. Like with the print, I get it, right? If one more person means one more print. And there's a marginal cost associated to that. But it's like the marginal cost of serving up that page, via like, your web server, to a tablet versus smartphone. Is that really $1.25 difference?
No, it's not. I think what it is, it's meant to, it's an artificial barrier meant to draw you into get used to paying $3.75, then bump you up to $5, then bump you up to $8.25. It's supposed to scale.
I guess. Usually the trick with that kind of stuff is you, the way that you bundle it is, how does it work? So normally the pricing, you do them in 3 tiers, and that's kind of the rule is you do 3 types of pricing, and the middle one is what you actually want people to do. and the expensive one is to make the middle one look reasonable. And then the cheap one is only slightly cheaper than the middle one. They're like, that's the perfect way to do it. Because, if you're willing to do 5, you might say, and for $6, you get this. But then for $10, you get all this other stuff. And so it's just like 5, 6, 10 is kind of like I'm making that up. But the idea of that, the bottom tier is like, and you get so much, and you set it up so like the bottom tier is really not that much. It's almost not enough type thing. Where you're like, it's web only.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
And
I'll
then
give
you're
you
like,
10-ounce soda that you can't refill for $4. I'll give you a 24-ounce soda that you can refill for $4.25. I'll give you a 32-ounce soda that you can refill for $17.50.
yeah, yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly. But I could see where they could say it's like $5 for, or whatever the number, $5 for web only, $6 for web plus smartphones and tablets. Cause you're like, cause that's the difference between like a web thing and put it into the app. Okay. Those are two genuinely different tasks. I get it. They're not that different because it's all automated anyways. And then you have the higher version one, which I don't know. You get like special feature type stuff or something. I don't know. And and that's how you set that up. And you're like, if someone's willing to go 5, they're like, no brainer to go 6 and just get it everywhere. And as far as they're concerned, that's just an extra buck that they're getting from a million people. And they're like, awesome. But I don't know. That doesn't. I'm sure that they have really smart people who have thought through those numbers and how they come up with them.
Are you sure? Are you just hoping?
Let me rephrase that. They have a lot of people who have talked about it and looked at it.
Right.
But it may be one of those things where it may not be actually based in consumer research.
Right.
It may be based on, we would like to be making this much money when we hit 1 million people. And that's how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
But man, I would just be annoyed if it was like, you could look it on your smartphone, but not on your tablet. That would just annoy me. But maybe that's what they're going for.
The other thing I don't understand is I have the alerts app. And maybe I haven't.
Is it for the New York Times or is it the CNBC one?
No, it's totally New York Times.
Oh, okay.
And it's great because it's got a good app on my watch, but it lets me read it doesn't let me read just the headlines. It lets me read the whole app if I go into the app. And maybe I just haven't hit the paywall limit.
The 10 per month yet?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That actually makes sense. Did you know that Coca-Cola is funding scientists who are shifting the blame on obesity?
To who?
Well, presumably somebody other than Coca-Cola. Yeah, that's why I think it's they put it in the
dude. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. It's the same argument.
Yeah. Well, I think Coke is trying to go so far as to say it's not sugar. It seems a little disingenuous. Yeah, sure. I was to say I'm pretty sure that's gotta but whatever, man. Capitalism is awesome.
Dude, you know what topic I really don't want to talk about, but really do? I would love to talk about the debates that happened last week. Just because it was quite the spectacle.
Oh,
but
man.
We're going to ignore that topic, and now I regret saying something.
I'm gonna say because there's almost things that you can like latch on to, like Twitter and Donald Trump. You can almost think that you could talk about it without being super controversial, but we're gonna have to let that for one of the shows on our growing platform who does politics and tech exclusively, and that's their whole thing. Was another
promises we can't keep.
Well, that was another example that was proposed in the wee hours of last night while we were talking about the future of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
Cool. Good for them. Did you read the news about Verizon?
Yeah.
By the way, I have a bad habit of saying I realized that listening to some recordings.
You know what?
Trying to fix that.
I've been working on it too.
Really?
Have I? Yeah, that's not the response I wanted. Like the last.
Well, no offense. I haven't been listening for you.
That's fair. But yes, I have been working on not saying as much as well. As we try to take this podcast more seriously. We're finally 4 years later trying to say less.
Yeah. Well, I was doing some video recording for something different, and I I was actually listening to it and went, whoa, I do that a lot. And yeah, I remember your transitions used to be really bad with the and I haven't been paying attention lately.
Oh,
so
great.
Cool. I'll point that out for you. This is fantastic. Oh man, I just did it. Okay, the trick is to snap, to to show it or whatever. That would just be super annoying on the show. Anyways, Verizon, they're killing off the service contracts. They're getting onto the T-Mo plan.
I know. Well, that's because T-Mo finally surpassed Sprint. I mean, that's like T-Mobile is doing something. They're shaking up the industry. Their whole uncarrier thing, it's actually causing people to get scared. So yeah, Verizon is getting on that bandwagon.
So they're switching over to the data bucket thing, or making that the only option, I think is the way to say it.
Yes.
And so it's very similar to AT&T's in terms of the service plan, where you get not creatively named plans like the small, medium, large, extra large, which have different gigabytes associated with each of them for a certain amount of money. And then for each device that you want to connect costs something, like $20 a month for a smartphone, $10 for a tablet or something, or $5 for a smartwatch. And then you all just have your data buckets, and that's how you connect. But the interesting part is, you're not committed to a 2-year contract anymore, which is kind of cool. But you could outright just pay for your phone, but now you're just in a phone payment plan.
Right.
So
which is similar to what?
In terms of total cost, I think they were saying it's about the same, depending on the amount of your plan. It might be like $5 more or less. So they're it's pretty much the same, but they're just being way more explicit now on how much you're paying for the phone. And now, and I look at this and I go, now you actually have an incentive to hold on to your phone for longer, because once you pay off your phone, your plan actually goes down. That's the annoying part of AT&T right now. Is you actually have a disincentive to hold on to your phone longer, because you're going to pay the same amount no matter what, and now your resale value starts dropping. And so there's there's that happy medium. Yeah, I get you still got to pay the $200 or whatever to get the phone, but it drops. Yeah. So it's being shaken up. And I guess my whole question around this was, or my hypothesis is, that this will be great for low-end smartphones.
Yes. Because
now all of a sudden it makes the prices super transparent, that, you're not paying $200 for an iPhone. You're paying $650 for an iPhone, or a high-end smartphone, or whatever.
I would like to think that that's the case, except I have fallen into that. I like to think that I've got self-control. I like to
keep thinking that.
Please don't point out any specific examples and break my heart. But it's walking into a T-Mobile store, talking to them about getting a 6 Plus, whatever, and the pricing structure, they make it really painless. Oh yeah, it's just $10 a month to your bill. It's only $10 more, and you could have the phone right now. Oh, you want to pay an extra $100 right now up front? Okay, I'll take another $2 off the monthly bill. It's $8 a month. It's really easy to pay. 2 years.
Okay, that's pretty
2 year contract. And all of a sudden you look at it and you go, it's the upsale. I have a feeling that there's a chance that, yes, it's more explicit, the vast jump in price for the iPhone, but I think it's still low paying enough that you're not talking about adding $30 a month to your bill. You're talking between 0 and 10.
Do they charge interest?
T-Mobile doesn't.
Wow, that's a great deal.
I'm gonna say, but they also buy them wholesale. So
yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a good deal. I mean, it really is. It's funny. I have thought about that before, where it really doesn't necessarily make any sense for me to even if I have. So it's
because you could pay it off early, right?
Right. I've been saving up for the 6S Plus that will be announced on September 9th. Right. And I'm excited about it. I have the money. I'm going to be able to buy it outright. But it doesn't necessarily make sense for me to do that, because it doesn't cost me any more to defer the cost over the course of 2 years and just pay monthly out of that bank account that already has the money. So if I ever need to just pay it off because I want to switch carriers or something, I can. I have the money, or I can keep that money around for guaranteed, yeah. And so there's because it's a zero interest loan. So I and I go back and forth.
Interesting.
The problem is, if I do that, I will spend it on something else, and then I don't have the money sitting around. And it's just from like I said, I like to believe I have self-control, but I know that I don't. So if I don't have that extra $1,000 sitting around in a bank account, I won't spend it on stupid stuff when it's already
Okay, so that's good to know that or I don't know. I guess it's good to know that it won't affect the high-end smartphone market necessarily because of the way they've set it up.
Yeah, I think there might be in the margins, you might see that a little bit.
I mean, let's be honest. If their small plan is $30 a month, for someone to say it's an extra $10, whatever, right. It's not necessarily rounding error at that point, but it's not like it is going to double that.
Right. I guess what my thought is, I don't think this will change whether somebody buys an iPhone or not. They'll still get it within their price range. They'll still do whatever they're going to do. I do think it'll have an effect on the upgrade cycle, though. I do think it, like you said, it incentivizes holding on to the third year. You actually wait till the phone's no good anymore, as opposed to upgrading as opposed to just doing it because you got an upgrade available. And because all of a sudden you do get $10, that $10 a month goes away. And you're like, oh, this is really cool. Well, I get to, save money, which is the reason why I have a 5.
That's not true with cars, right? When people, is a general rule, when people's loans for their cars are paid off, to a lot of people, that's a signal to time to get a new car. That's not everybody. There are some people who are like, sweet, now time to hold on to my car for twice as long and save up for whatever. But I'm
trying not to talk about it, James. I know I'm trying to talk about it.
No. I'm trying to use it as a whatever, as a metaphor. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, like, is that how people will act? And so maybe it will, because I know, like I said, someone like me, that will change my buying behavior.
Correct.
Because beforehand, it didn't necessarily make sense to hold on to the phone, even though I did. And now I'm like, oh yeah, totally going to.
Right. And I do think it's interesting that T-Mobile has really changed their game up in order to keep the upgrade cycle going, as I think they've recognized that. And now they've got these different plans where it's, no, you just pay $10 a month and you're on a regular upgrade cycle. You can upgrade every 6 months. And they came out with a big thing, though, when they changed the plan up last month. They were like, oh, by the way, you'll be able to update to the new, if you get a 6S, or if you get a 6, you'll be able to upgrade to the next new 6S when it comes out in 2 months. And everybody's like, whoa, that's kind of a big deal. And their whole thing is, they go, we need a tremendous number of refurbished devices. And this allows us to get really high quality devices that are easy to refurbish, and then we should resell them, on their second life 18 months later. And they just basically quote that. That's how they justify the cost. It'll be interesting to see over the long run if that actually works out financially, because it's still a pretty new strategy, but so far it's been working, and that's their working theory, and that's why they do the upgrade cycles, because the other side of it is they run out of refurbishable phones that they can resell and give out on when you get damage, and they have to what are those called when your insurance on insurance claims and stuff. That's why they like the upgrade cycles.
Interesting. Fascinating. Man, the phone business is an interesting one, that's for sure.
Really, it is.
Yeah, I know AT&T has their Next program, which I know our mom was looking into, and it's one of those where they make it just convoluted enough that you can't actually know what's happening. One of those, like, you'll know what your bill is after the first month situations. Like, that's not what I'm asking. I want to know what it is, and they make it like so confusing. It's kind of annoying, actually. But Verizon's getting in on it.
Get on,
shaking things up, which means AT&T is going to be close behind.
Come on, get on the bandwagon. Go T-Mo all the way. I don't care if your phone doesn't work anymore because you don't have reception. It's worth it.
Good to know.
Yes.
All right, I'm super pumped for this next topic. Oh, are you going to go first?
Well, I was
first.
Oh, okay. Yes, I am going to go first.
Right,
I'm going to do one and then the other. So the dream of internet freedom is dying. There was a big conference this last week. The the Black Hat Security Conference. Thank you. They're basically sitting there. They talk about hacking and stuff, and one of the big reasons there's been all these news articles about how all security is coming down. It's the end of the world. There's nothing left. There's nothing secure on the internet. It's because the Black Hat conference is impending. So everybody's been releasing their hacks that they were going to be talking about at the conference. But Jennifer Granick, director of civil liberties at the Stanford Center for Internet and Society, gave a keynote address at the and basically she said that there was this idea about the internet and how this distributed network was designed to, if you lose a node, if you lose a router, if you lose cables, if you lose whatever, the internet would automatically, and just the way that they structured the whole IP thing and how routers are designed, it was designed to be such that if there was damage to the system, it would just automatically reroute packets around the damage. And you would be able to have this really fluid movement of data that would be almost impossible to control as it flows around from node to node to node. And there wouldn't be any central pipeline. There wouldn't be anywhere for it to break. And what's one of the reasons why this distributed communication system has been so robust and great over the last couple of decades. It was a pretty brilliant design. But like I said, one of the core concepts was that packets, as they're traveling around the internet, if they found damage, they would be rerouted around it. And they took it one step further because you got a bunch of guys that are really focused on information transfer. And they said that the internet treats censorship as damage and routes around it. So if there was anything that was trying to censor data as it was being passed around the internet, like let's say you're Barbra Streisand and you want to get a story off the internet, there wouldn't be any way for you to do that. There's no central place where you could go and stop traffic as it was coming in or leaving to actually censor it. Now, obviously, countries like China have managed to do that, but that's literally because they monitor all traffic through all IPs in and out of the country. That's how they do that, and that's why they're able to do it, and it's why data doesn't see that as damage, because it's all bottlenecked, but the rest of the internet isn't. And so Jennifer Granick's whole argument in this, and I thought it was kind of interesting and worth thinking about, was that while the rest of the internet still seems to be able to work on the idea of routing around any damage, if nodes go down, if technology is not working properly, if there's a faster route, it will continue to work. For social reasons, the idea that internet treating censorship like damage doesn't seem to be working as much anymore. And basically she's arguing that most data, and there are so many things that we're doing online, there's so much that's going on, and security is such a big concern that it's really hard for small companies to manage security properly. And so what we've started to do is really sort of consolidate security into and just services in general into fewer and fewer companies. So Google, Facebook, Apple, and companies like that, different companies that do securities for banks, all sorts of systems like that. And Gmail, Amazon, etc. But this centralizes control even further. And so what she's arguing for is that we're kind of running into this problem where we are electively designing an internet that is isn't as robust when it comes to allowing the free flow of information that it once did, because Google can censor their results, and how would we know? Because everything runs through Google. And Facebook can censor topics that they don't want to have talked about, and there's not really anywhere else you can go. And in order to, and as a result, a lot of other websites that leverage these giant consolidated powers, they're going to suffer as well. And she's basically arguing that decentralization empowers people to make their own decisions about right and wrong. Today, though, in our slowly centralizing internet, those decisions are effectively being made on our behalf whenever a service enforces a, quote, moral standard that forbids photos of breastfeeding mothers, or governments crack down on cybercrime by convicting people for incriminating URL strings. And she's arguing that it gets even worse when you talk about what the NSA is doing and secret laws and sort of the security apparatus doing things in the shadows, because then we just will become sort of, we start to self-censor even further, because now I'm not going to use Facebook to talk about breaking the laws, because I'm quite confident that the NSA is monitoring that. And then it even goes a step further of, well, maybe I won't talk necessarily about not breaking the laws, but I might go so far as just to not talk political strategy, because if it's important, well, I know the government's monitoring it. And I don't know, I just thought it was a really interesting take on sort of where we're going, and the bigger picture of security on the internet and monitoring of the internet, and sort of how it causes this systematic breakdown of how the system is supposed to work. And she does say that it's not over. This isn't she is an optimist. But she did end with something like a call to revolution. If the free, open, and decentralized internet does ultimately become controlled, closed, and centralized, we need to be ready to smash it apart and make something new and better. Which is interesting. It's just an interesting idea that, we look at it as this really, really successful version of what we were trying to do, but perhaps it isn't as great as we thought it was. And maybe there's even a better way to do it that preserves those ideals of how the internet works. But it's interesting.
One of my favorite books is The Millionaire Next Door, and in it he talks about this concept of when I want to say baby boomer generation was growing up, they had some tough times and they made some huge mistakes, and ultimately raised up and were successful and were able to buy a nice house, get the nice cars, go on sweet vacations, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they had kids, they didn't want them to have to go through that same heartache. And so they helped them with a down payment and helped them with getting a car and, stuff like that. And when the kids said he had a business idea, they helped them by letting them stay in the basement and, giving them food and, all the other accoutrements of life.
Allowing them to focus on working,
yes,
and chasing their dream down.
Yes, exactly. But what they found was that it did the exact opposite, that there is value in getting burned and making mistakes and going it, and going through the hardships. Hardship creates creativity, creates drive, separates wheat from the chaff, if you will.
Yeah.
And there's value in that. And by these parents protecting their kids and not letting them learn on their own, it ultimately, they never grew. They never got better. And this sounds oddly familiar. Yeah. Where we have to protect people. We don't want them to get hurt. And yeah, they'll never get hurt. But it also stops something else, that it stops that potential for greater,
Right.
And I think that's the fear, and kind of, it's, to me, it sounds like that's kind of her call to action, or her, whatever, her concern, which is, yeah, you will be more secure because you won't be able to do anything.
Right.
And yeah, if you never go outside, the chances of you getting hurt outside are pretty small. And so that's kind of what they're saying. But at the same time, you lose something there. And that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Which, in the book, their whole thing is kick kids out. Yeah, let them go bankrupt. Let them, make them get a burger flipping job. If that dream is really important to them, they'll figure it out. And believe it or not, those experiences, those hardships, are what shape people. I was also listening, this is kind of related, but it was kind of awesome, so I just have to share it. I was listening to a podcast that was talking about gaming and the benefits of gaming.
Nice.
Pro tip, Tetris is amazing.
Yeah, I believe it.
Like, not only is it a super fun game, but it totally helps reduce the impact of like PTSD and worrying. Yeah.
Crazy.
They're just like 10 minutes a day. That's all it takes.
Really?
And yeah, and they went into the psychological benefits of it, which is super fascinating. But the important part is go download Tetris now and play Tetris. It's good for you. And what I thought was interesting, and again, they were talking about like games are good. And I thought this was such an interesting thing where she was like, games are, it's, how did she say it? It's voluntary hardship is what you're signing up for when you go to play a game. And she was like, an example, golf. The easiest way to get a small ball into the hole is to walk up to the hole and place the ball in the hole. He goes, that's the easiest way to accomplish that goal. Like, but no, we don't do that. We say, I'm going to stand 300 yards away and try to get the ball into the hole. Better yet, I'm going to use a stick to get this thing into the hole.
I'm not going to throw it.
And I'm going to try to do it faster than someone else. And she's like, it's voluntary hardship. And she says, and that's what makes it fun, ironically. And you get that same sense with like, that was what was so exciting about the internet.
Right.
You could do anything. I don't know. We only have HTML right now, but you could do anything. You could talk to people. You can talk to people in Nigeria and give them money if you want. I wouldn't, but you could do it.
Yeah. And you can make mistakes. You can talk to terrible people.
It was this
you
wild
can
west.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big deal. Rewrite the web page. Okay, cool. And that was part of the excitement of it, was this, it was hard, and because in theory, talking to, maybe not talking to someone across the world, it's easier to fly there, but maybe that's not true. But it was this wild west, this interesting piece on it. And maybe the issue is, to stick with the golf analogy, the court's been overrun by people who don't actually know how to play. And so now they're saying like, okay, time to organize, time to do this well. We have our beginner putter course over here. And the more people who have like no idea what they're doing, saying, okay, here's this narrow track. All you got to do is hit the ball down it. And it already has an incline, and it pools down into the middle. Yeah. You're guaranteed to make it.
This is the Facebook hole, and it's very, very easy to, you just whack really hard, and as long as you get it in the right 180 degree view, it'll if you go too far, don't worry, you'll hit a backstop. If you don't go far enough, don't worry, it slopes down. It's perfect. It's you'll get in the hole. First try, hole in one.
Yeah. And
there's
no, I think that's totally it. And I think the fear is, if that's all you ever play, you never actually get good at doing the game for those times when you do actually step out into the world and type in a URL, and the possibilities of saying, what if you used this club in this situation, just never arises, which may totally change the way the game is played.
Right.
And just the chances of having those types of situations.
What if the club disappears 10 seconds after you use it?
Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I heard her saying.
I agree. It's funny. I think it's a I don't know. I think it's a I think it dovetails a lot with a lot of other ideas that are interesting. I tend to have sort of a I don't know. I tend to be a pessimist about this kind of stuff, unfortunately. But I will leave you before we go on to the next topic. I will leave you with one of my favorite quotes about freedom by one of my favorite founding fathers, Sam Adams. And her call echoes this very clearly. If you love wealth greater than liberty, the tranquility of servitude greater than the animated contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We seek not your counsel nor your arms. Couch down and lick the hand that feeds you. May your chain set lightly upon you, and may prosperity forget you were our countrymen. That's basically what we're saying.
Wow.
If you can't take the internet, go home. Hang up the phone. Go away. We don't want you out of here. You're gonna ruin it for the rest of us.
That's funny. That's interesting. I think she's right that it may not be a complete smash apart, but there will be sections that are smashed apart and reopened, and so it'll happen.
Yeah.
Not as long as there are apps around, but it'll happen.
Yeah. Thanks, Facebook, or Apple.
Apple.
All right, now tell me what you give me your exciting doomsday.
Okay. Further reminder: I work for HP, but don't represent HP or any of HP's business. So, trying to speed through that one. So I work for HP.
Hewlett Packard.
I specifically work in the printer division. Even more specific, I forecast ink revenue.
Okay.
That is my job. Like, how much money will we make this quarter, this year on ink sales? Okay. That's what I do.
So I'm not going to ask you to publicly announce how much money you think you're going to make, or can I? Because I'd love to know if you can tell us.
You could ask, but I will not answer.
Okay, fair enough.
I could say not as much as we'd like.
Yeah.
and let me say more about that. And the reasons for that are multifaceted. There is the very real, like, people don't print as much as they used to. Turns out that's a thing. And by the way, that's like my new catchphrase that I've been using a lot is "turns out."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been using that a lot. I haven't gotten sick of it yet, so I'm running with it.
Stick with it for a little while.
Yeah. I'll just wait until it gets really old.
I gotcha.
So it is really hard not to say I find myself thinking way too much about it.
Yeah.
Okay, it gets better.
You did a good job though.
It gets better. Okay. So one of them is people printing less. The other one is that there are options out there other than original ink that customers can buy to print for when they have to print. Okay. The aftermarket, the remanufactured. What is the one? Rapid refill. That's kind of the big one in the US. And so this is kind of as you know, we lose money on the printer, we make it back up on the ink, and if you don't buy our ink, we don't make it back. That's kind of how this game works. And we take that into account, right? We know what percent of people will buy original and what percent will not, and so that's what we use to do the math. And if it's still going to be a positive number, sweet, we make the printer. If not, we kill it most of the time. And so it's really dependent on those assumptions that are behind it. So there are a couple ways to get around this problem. The first, the way that let me take it back a step. So in addition to the rapid refill ink type of people, there's another type of competitor out there. It's called CIS, continuous ink supply system, I think is what it is.
Okay.
CIS. CISS, Continuous Ink Supply System. I believe that's what it is. It's this idea that you literally have a cartridge, you run a a supply line from the cartridge or from a bag full of ink into the cartridge. Like what is that thing called? Like a little hose, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's just continuous ink. And it just continually fills up the cartridge. Kind of an interesting idea. The SIS. So the way to get around that is to, you can try to beat them or you can try to join them. And Epson has decided to join them.
Nice.
Yeah. And so they are getting rid of the ink cartridge and instead having ink tanks. And so it's literally this printer that for some reason got a ton of press, which I'm kind of like miffed about. Ooh, 191 comments. Oh, that'll be interesting to read later. Where essentially it's a printer that has the 4 tanks on the side, and they literally ship with bottles of ink, and you pour the ink into these tanks, and then it prints. And the bottles that they come with, in theory, for an average printer, will last 2 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty crazy. So they did some math, and they used to originally sell this printer, or the equivalent model, for $100.
Okay.
And then for 2 years worth of ink, you would spend an additional $700.
Wow.
Okay. For this level of printing that you would do. It's not a small amount. So now with this printer, you can buy it for $400.
Which I think that's the reason why it's getting so much press. Is because it's just a really super expensive consumer printer.
But it lasts for 2 years. Now here's the interesting part, which I loved. He goes, it's not really fair to compare it to the $800 option, because for someone who's interested in this, they were never paying full price for the ink cartridges to begin with. Right. So if you compare it to the off-brand ink for your $100 printer, your total cost, even after $200, for 2 years, is less than $200.
Yeah. See,
so he's like, it's still cheaper to buy the cheap printer and buy the aftermarket ink. That's still the cheap way to go on this.
Well, and I think the reality of it is, I don't know, maybe you know this answer more than a lot more than I. I'm sure you know the answer to this question a lot better than I do. And because I'm just going off of my own personal experience when I make this statement, but that printer would last. How long do you think it would take for that printer ink to just completely biodegrade to the point where it was useless? Because that's how long that printer would last me.
It's a different type of ink. They make, you have pigment-based ink, you have soy-based ink, you have, what is it called? It's like a synthetic. I can't find it right now. I can't remember. This is the type of ink that it's actually it lasts a while.
Yeah, well, that's good, because
that was actually one of the things that HP ran into with some of their larger printers where they had the larger cartridges, is that it actually started to grow things inside the ink tanks. And because it was a nice, warm, liquid, water-based solution, and things would start to grow, and HP had to figure out like how to overcome that.
That's
bad.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Who knows? They may have the same issue. I don't know.
Well, and I guess what my point is that I don't know who's this for? Who's this for? Who was buying $100 printer and using it enough to justify? Like, who was printing that much?
People.
I don't know them. I don't know anybody like them. You know.
Fair enough. To me, that $800 does seem a little high, in my opinion. But
yeah.
I can only go after what they've said. Now I know that like in some places like the US, they have a subscription program. So it's like unlimited ink, however you want. It's either $3 to $10 a month, to which most people are like, I don't want to pay that much for ink. Yeah. Though if you do print, it's a fantastic program. I've considered signing up for it multiple times for the stuff that we do. And then HP's also played around with this idea again of you get 2 years worth of ink, but you can't replace the cartridges. When you're done, you throw away the printer and you buy a new printer. And so the entire idea is to get away from losing money on the printer, because that's the deal. Like with this $100 printer, it probably actually cost them $200 to make.
Right.
And so part of that was just them catching back up to, we're not losing money anymore. And that's just the idea, which is we'll just make money up front, which honestly is not as fair for the consumer, right? Because the nice part about it, if you got a printer on discount and you never printed, all right, it was cheap.
Right.
And this way now it's kind of like, I don't know. For the other thing he brought up was he's like, man, for $400, I should be able to fix this thing. And you can't, of course.
Right.
He's like, man,
that is a far more expensive tool. I mean, you're talking real money there.
Yeah. So dumb Epson, what do you guys know?
Yeah, you keep.
But I guarantee you, there's at least one other company out there that's watching very carefully to see how they do this. I know that Kodak came out with I can't remember the name of the program, but it was the same idea where they're like, we're going to sell the printers at a slight profit, and then the cartridges will be a little bit cheaper. And that program summarily died pretty quick. It just didn't. Turns out people don't there you go. That people don't actually look at the price of the cartridge. They don't care when they buy a printer. They only care about the hardware price.
Well, yeah. Well, it goes exactly back to what we were talking about with the phones earlier, and that pricing scheme. People don't think about anything beyond the down payment on the car. They only think about, I really hope he doesn't listen to this show this week. They only talk about they don't think about how much is it going to cost me per month, and they don't really let that sink in. They just, I can afford it. And that's a price I'll worry about paying later, is what you think. And that's that. You're playing into normal psychology with that. I can't see. I would say this. I think Epson's going to fail majorly with this program. It's a clever thing. They'll get certain. The only exception is if they're targeting small businesses. Small businesses usually are better with the overarching, like the long-term ROI type thing, except like the author said, it's kind of unfair, because if you really are a small business looking to save money on ink, you weren't paying full price for ink, you were recharging your cartridges. So I think it's a failure. I don't I don't think it'll work. I don't think people will make that investment. And
I like this one commenter thing. He says, irony of the day, we are all commenting on an online article about printers and ink.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And that is my biggest point, is that transition is happening. And maybe
people do print. For the record, companies, businesses in particular, they do print. There is a need for it. That is very real. In the home, that's a different story.
Right.
And that is slowly disappearing, which is why HP at least is making that big push of, okay, we're going to get ink more into the business environment, because people do print there.
So how many people were buying cheap $100 printers for businesses?
Oh, well,
isn't that a home, like a consumer level printer?
Yeah.
That's I guess what my point is. I'm not saying that people don't print. Obviously they do print, and they'll print probably for another 2 or 3 years before the gig is up. And well,
maybe they're transitioning, or I don't know what Epson's up to.
Yeah.
But maybe they're trying to say, yeah, this was a consumer printer, but now we're going to target it for small business owners.
That I could see that, but
and then now you're getting away with. Maybe that's how it came to the $700 worth of ink. You need to be printing a lot to get $700 worth of ink.
Right.
I think. I don't know if cartridges are. I don't know how much, if they're $20 a cartridge.
Dude, I haven't bought a cartridge in like 5 years. I have no idea.
Yeah,
probably longer.
All right, this topic's boring me. Let's move on.
Okay. All right, so talking about speaking of apps.
Okay.
So I thought there was this really interesting idea that just don't call it an app. When you're talking about what is Uber, Uber's not an app. What is Airbnb? What is Munchery? What are these things? And the reality of
What
it
is
is
Munchery?
they're like a on delivery food thing,
Oh,
and
makes sense.
you know, yeah. And there's this idea of what is Amazon? Is Amazon a website? Or is Amazon something, or is it just the tip of the iceberg? And I think for our audience, for us, yes, right. Thank you. It's it right there, Amazon.com. It's in the name. Yeah. Next topic. The idea is that a lot of these things, a lot of these websites, a lot of these apps, we talk about it as the app. Do you have Uber? Do you use Uber? What is Uber? What are these companies and what are their and what's important to look at is to look at Amazon and say Amazon started at a website where they sold books. And
this is similar to your Facebook argument too, by the way.
Thank you. And this idea that the company, and they call them the full stack. That's a really popular term in the tech industry right now. I'm a full stack developer. I'm a full stack company. And basically what it means
I'm stacked.
I know exactly. I'm a full stack packer. The idea is when they talk about full stack is that at every level in some sort of in your process, you're developing it. So like if you say I'm a full stack JavaScript developer, it means that you know how to run Node.js on the back end to build servers. Those servers are going to be then you're going to be connecting to Mongo, which is a JavaScript database. You're going to be delivering that page to an Angular web page, and you're going to have this, everything at every level is JavaScript powered, right? So it's a full stack. Well, in this case, they're talking about the full stack is even more than that. Where they're saying Uber is just, when we talk about Uber, we usually think about, most people talk about Uber, they think about Uber, the app.
Right.
But the reality of it is Uber is way more than that. And they're this giant technology company that obviously they are coordinating drivers. There's all these different pieces of technology that are working together, and the consumer facing piece of that is really just the tip of the iceberg. It's not the biggest piece of their puzzle. And a lot of the improvements and a lot of the reasons where their competitive advantages come from isn't from a better app, but it's a better stack. And Amazon is a great example of this. It's a company that they started out with the website selling books, and then they started to expand that to other stuff and food and clothes and all sorts of other things. And people got used to buying things on Amazon, but their true competitive advantage came about when they started to really revolutionize how you do delivery systems, giant global delivery systems. How do you do warehouses? How do you reduce the number of people working in your warehouses? How do you automate these systems? How do you get super short delivery times? How do you lower the cost of delivery? How do you get all of these different pieces together? And then they had this proficiency in data storage because they deal with a lot of data, and there was this lack of easily accessed flexible data centers around the world that they could leverage. So they built data centers all over the place. And then they looked at them similarly. Well, they're big digital warehouses. So let's open them up like we do with the rest of Amazon. They look at themselves as a warehouse company. That's really what their big deal is. And there are offshoots, but that's the core concept that's their core competency. And then
I remember like McDonald's, this guy, he asked people, like, what do we do? You know, and answer like, well, you're burger flipping. It's like, no, we're in real estate.
Right.
Clear here. And we plop systems on real estate. Yeah. And he's like, that's what we do. The secret to our success is real estate. It's not burger flipping. And
right.
Yeah, so similar idea, but keep going.
Right. And so the question, and it's one of the reasons why Amazon is one of your four horsemen. Of all the horsemen fall into this category. There are companies with a very small, narrow field that tends to be consumer facing. And then there's the giant behemoth of a company that they're really building up better that goes behind that. And Facebook's full stack, they don't really have a hardware division beneath them that they work on, but just the entirety of what they do with security and connectivity and robust servers around the world. And how they're more than just Facebook. They're, like, as you said, they are a giant interconnected. We know everything about everything, and we make it very easy for other websites to access that power and users to access other services securely and connect all those things together. That's what they're really good at. Then, Google is their core competency is they look at themselves as a digital technology. We build digital machines and we send them on all sorts of tasks. That's what they're great at, is building digital machines. And that's their core competency. And then, we look at a couple of these things. They don't do email. They don't do searches. They build a thinking machine that's a pattern finding machine. It's how it points forward. So the bigger reason to talk about this is to look at companies like Airbnb and Uber. Where are they going and what are they doing and what's their future? Why is Uber the fastest growing company in the world right now? It's because they got a lot more going on other than their app. And their core competency, they really look at it as we are a contracting company. We put like short-time contractors in contact with, as service providers, in contact with people who are going to pay for the service. And we coordinate that. And that's why they keep looking into other ways to do that, whether it's moving furniture or food delivery or package delivery, stuff like that. They want to sort of, not necessarily even the sharing economy. We talk about the sharing economy as we're all going to share these different what we have with somebody else, but that's not really what they look at themselves. They look at themselves as we coordinate contractors. We take the, because as a user like me, I'm going to get a cab or I'm going to get transportation, even if I have to pay for it. That service is already out there. So Uber's competitive advantage is being able to make it really easy for other contractors to find business like me. And all of a sudden they get this huge competitive advantage over the taxi companies. And that's what they want to leverage as they move forward. Airbnb is a similar sort of deal. And it'll be interesting to see if Uber ever steps on the toes of Airbnb, because their competitive advantage is similar. And so Can Uber do it better? Can they integrate further? Can they get better penetration? Can you trust them more? And it's funny, when they got rid of the name Uber Cab and they changed it to just Uber, everybody was like, oh. But I think in the long run, it was sort of like Apple Computers getting rid of computers from their name and becoming Apple Inc. They just generalized their purpose, and it allowed them to focus on what they're really good at. And I don't know. It's just I think, and then we ask questions like, and I think one of the reasons why it bothers me so much is because maybe I'm just an idiot and I don't get what Snapchat's core competency is. What is it? What's their full stack? What are they driving at? I know. Well, because it's, I don't see it. I don't get it. And I'm trying.
I want somebody towels.
I know. Exactly. I want somebody to explain it to me. Why? What is their full stack? What is their competitive advantage? Because the whole temporary picture thing goes away. And I get it. For some people, they look at it as like having your browser in secret mode, or what's the proper for incognito mode. Nobody can see who you've been chatting with, because those things automatically go away. But also there's incognito mode. What are we doing here? I don't know.
Well, now they've extended into news, which it's there for a day or two and then it disappears. That's that ephemeral thing, right? That's what they do. I don't know, dude. Snapchat's a bad example.
But that's my point. I don't think it's a bad example. I think it's a good example of a company that's not doing it and is a bad investment.
You really dislike them. Man, let me think here. If I were Snapchat, where would I take it from here? Because they did the picture thing. They added the texting ability. They added the transfer of money ability. And then they got into the, what is it called? Like the live right now, or, there's an events thing that happens. And as people are there, I don't even know how it works, but they upload it. And then you can watch like pictures of different people from different events as it unfolds, kind of not as easily as Twitter. And then they have the news thing. So you get this sense with Snapchat where they don't even know.
Yeah.
Other than, I don't know, let's try this thing as a ephemeral thing and see how that works out. And
yeah,
we'll go from there.
I agree.
You get the sense that with Uber, by the way, the CEO of that guy is, he's a pretty driven dude. The fun story that, what is his name? That Chris Sacca likes to tell was he had the Uber CEO over at his house, and he had like a pretty late night and woke up and was like, half asleep or whatever. And Chris Sacca's dad was way into Wii tennis.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, you wanna play? He was like, yeah, sure, I guess, yeah, I'll play. Why not? And so, and again, the CEO dude, he was out of it, just like whatever. And he said, and Chris was watching, and Chris Sacca's dad was like playing his heart out and like sweating, playing hard.
Yeah.
And the Uber CEO, which I should probably know his name. Do you know his name? I feel like Travis Kalanick. Travis, that's his name. All right. So Travis was just barely flicking the wrist, like not even paying attention, switching hands type thing, just
right.
Not even trying, and winning. and at one point in time, he was like, okay, here, let me do this. And Chris Sacca watched Travis focus and just aced him. Didn't even his Chris Sacca's dad didn't even touch the ball.
That's hilarious.
And Travis was like, okay, I have a confession to make. And he went over to the global leaderboards. And
I was going to say,
you see that name for number 2 there? He goes, that's me.
That's hilarious.
And now, at least for Chris Sacca, that was where he went, this kid's going to go places. Because Travis decided that he liked Wii tennis and was going to get good at it, and put in the time and effort and had the skill to be great at the game.
Well, and almost as importantly, I mean, you had done that with what game was that? Blitz, where you had been playing Blitz for years. You were really good at it. You created your own plays, and when people would like sit down and invite you to play, you're like, what buttons do I press?
I love doing that.
That way you could just demolish somebody, and they'd be like, "What happened?" Like, beginner's luck, And
I don't know. This play just seemed to work out, didn't it?
And Travis, that's exactly what happened to him. That it's not just good. It's not good enough to be the best in the world. He wants to crush people and just demoralize them.
Yeah, right. That's part of the fun of it. He waited until Chris Sacca's dad was just, that's a great word, demoralized, and then let him know this is who you went up against.
Yes.
and I think that carries over into Uber, where he applies this type of focus and passion into the product, and he's not in it just to barely win.
Yes.
And he does some pretty shady things too, let's be honest.
Yeah, he's wanted to be jailed in countries. I mean, like, he's a crazy dude. But
yeah, there's the Pando Daily folks do not like him because he's made some pretty bad comments about reporters and threatened people, and he's a competitor in the worst way you could possibly be.
Yeah.
And, but all that to say, like, you learn about this stuff and you go, yeah, Uber's probably going to be pretty big just given this kid's track record. And then you listen to Snapchat and the history is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not it's not the same drive to change the world and affect massive change. It's different.
Yeah. He thinks he's Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark.
Are we talking about the Snapchat guys, or
Evan Spiegel is not. I know
he does, doesn't he?
He does, and it's just when you look at where you look at the sort of clarity of purpose of what like you said, it's twofold. It's a clarity of purpose met with ingenuity, creativity, and drive, and it's we know what we need to do. Right, exactly. We know what we're all about, where we're driving, what we're going to, what our core competency is, and we want to take on these crazy tasks, crazy ideas, and apply that core competency. You know, why does Messenger make sense in the Facebook world? Because it's a platform that requires, it's a communication platform that requires incredibly robust, secure, distributed databases all over the world working together to allow multiple people to be communicating at various levels. It's like Facebook epitomized, and they're going to evolve it into a profitable platform the same way they did with Facebook. There's this core competency there of what they do and how they do it and why they're good at it. And it's not driven by communication. It's driven by distributed databases that allow the information to be where it needs to be when it needs to be there, and making sure that it's organized in such a way that it's really accessible, whether you're doing analytics or you're doing, posting on somebody's wall. That's their thing, and they're great at it. They're a technology company. They're an engineering company first, not a social network company, even though that's their best-selling product. And whereas I just get the feeling when you look at Evan Spiegel and you look at Snapchat, they're a social network company. That's what he's selling. That's what they're good at, is building a social network. And the problem is that nobody's good at building a social network. People are great at setting up really great, awesome clubs, and they become really popular for reasons that nobody understands. And then one day they stop being popular because another cool club opened up. And that is what we're going to see happen to Snapchat. I can't wait.
I know. You were just like salivating at the thought of Snapchat dying.
You know what they are? They're my new BlackBerry. and I'm prepared emotionally to say they can win even if I don't like them, if they change. But I just haven't seen anything that's convinced me that they're a full stack company with a core competency that differentiates them from their competition.
Yeah, the big problem with Snapchat is, let me think here. They're just going to be a middling company. I'm going to say it. They're going to be like, what's it, Foursquare.
Yeah.
That will be their fate. Just kind of middle of the road. They'll be used by some, and they'll be like, remember back when we were amazing? It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a great. You know what, James? And that's enough for me.
Oh man, that's hilarious. It's an interesting. So kind of, I want to get back to the Facebook thing, but first for this, it's an interesting concept to say a full stack startup. And they're more than just an app. And I get that. And it's trying to separate the company from the product. And because Apple makes apps, right?
Right.
And they make computers. They don't make cars, but they make watches and other stuff. And what do we call Apple? And Amazon very clearly in that same boat, which I think is a great example. And it's just essentially they're saying, don't just call them what their first product was. They're tech companies, which I think, that's what you said made Facebook different than MySpace. So you went, MySpace was a social network. Facebook is a tech company that happens to be focusing on social networks right now.
Right.
And that's the argument here that's being made for Uber. And they're taking it a step further, I think, of saying it's not just code that's required to make this work. There are other elements at play. And that's something that I said a very long time ago, which was, the big companies are going to be the ones that it's not just code. It's the intersection of the digital and physical world.
Right.
And that's going to be huge. And that's a big thing. And that honestly is my property management app idea, if you think about it. And, right. And that's where the real value is. And so that's interesting. Yeah. I think Uber will be big. Those other companies are kind of cool. They sound interesting. I wish I lived in the Bay Area so I could actually try them.
Yeah. Everybody I've talked to says don't use the food delivery companies.
Really?
Yeah, because they're as awesome as
they spin the food.
Well, no, because they're as awesome as they sound, as convenient as they sound, and as cheap as they sound, and you get as fat as you think you would.
Oh.
There is a value in making your own food, and if you don't make it, at least getting out of the house to go and pick it up. It's a different type of lifestyle to have food just delivered to your house right when you want to eat, no matter what it is. And
fair enough.
It's not necessarily good for you. So I haven't started yet.
Okay, gotcha. So speaking of another company that's not just a smartphone app company, Facebook, you talked a little bit about the pages. I'll be honest, man, the more details that come out about Facebook's pages and what the pages and the messenger pieces that go with it, sounds pretty cool. And that's totally their whole shtick. Create a fantastic product. And it bugs me that they're so straightforward about, oh yeah, we're totally going to monetize this thing in the future. It's just a matter of time. We're just growing it for now. I mean, they're so unabashful about it. But you look at the product, and so like this, they've set it up now. So if someone leaves a comment on your page, say like facebook.com/FurloBros, and they make a comment, you can reply back to them in a private message instead of trying to triage whatever their issue is or solve that customer service issue in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Do it privately, which is nice. And which is like, that's kind of cool. You will also have the availability to send them information like a receipt or tracking a package, that kind of stuff. And they're like, yeah, replacing email is what we're doing, which I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess that's cool. It's harder to archive, harder to search, harder to print, I guess. But I suppose if email is dying, which it's not, but if it was, then sure, that would make sense. But some pretty cool things that they're doing. But it just bugs me that they're totally making it free, get everybody hooked, and then we're gonna get after it. And apparently they've partnered up with Zendesk, which actually does like cost real money to help power some of the customer support stuff that they are offering.
Yeah,
which because their whole thing is like, instead of having a support center, you can just help people all over. Text messaging, or not text messaging, but the messenger app. And therefore you only need a few people running it. Instead of having one-to-one conversations, you could have 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 conversations and save some significant money, which is probably true.
Right.
I think it's interesting too, that if you reply to 90% of your messages within 5 minutes, they give you a little badge that says very responsive to messages.
Nice.
And so they're giving companies an incentive to really do well, because you get the little badge. We don't have that badge. You can message us anyways. We'll respond eventually.
We'll get there. We'll get around to it.
You realize we're not mission critical to your life. So
yeah, exactly. Don't take it personally.
Yeah. We're hoping you really. Facebook.
Yeah. No. So
where are we at?
I'm gonna start rapid firing, because
do it.
There's a bunch of really cool stuff that happened this week, and I just want to talk about it really quick. So Stems is a new audio format that has been released. It's an open source, standard sort of thing. Basically, what it is an audio file that has the different audio pieces broken apart, specifically 4 different.
Ooh.
Oh. It used to be that, if you wanted to break things into the different components, you either had to find music that was pre-recorded that way, or get really expensive software that could allow you to surgically remove parts like the vocals from the guitars. But that was still difficult to do. It required a lot of time, patience, and expensive software. So this new file allows DJs to turn the separate parts of the track on and off at will. Importantly, Stems is open, so anyone will be able to export music as a compatible file. And big artists and labels are already on board. Stem file will break into 4 parts, usually drums, vocals, bass, and lead, which is really awesome.
Wow.
If you're going to be making a video game like Guitar Hero, especially if you're going to be buying it when it comes out. I probably won't be used on Guitar Hero, but it's kind of exciting because it's, at least this generation, because it's almost done. But for future generations, it definitely will be something that you could see being incorporated into different types of games, because all of a sudden it allows you to very easily separate out the music, set up the game, build it, and then for DJs and audio people, you can just, if you just like the slick beats that are being laid down by your favorite, on your favorite Kanye West track, and you want to incorporate that into your TV commercial, you don't have to get it that recorded separately. You can just get the stems file, take out the audio, and you're off to the races. So it's pretty cool. And it's not going to radically change your life today, but I think how we make music, use music, and listen to music over the next couple of next decade could be affected by something like this. Because
isn't it amazing how content just gets increasingly disaggregated, where it's like, don't worry about the album, now it's the song, and now we're gonna break the song up.
Yeah,
you'll obviously still buy the entire song, but just that idea of it just keeps getting split up more and more. It's interesting.
And yeah, it is very interesting. It'll be interesting to see if that's ever baked into
DJs
something.
Would love this.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's huge. It's huge for that. It'll be interesting to see if it's ever baked into something like Spotify or iTunes or Apple Music. Where you'll just have an option where you'll be able to hit a button and have it turn off the vocals and just make it turn off the drums, turn off the whatever. Or if that's sort of the thing where that won't get used. It won't get used in that way. It'll just be used for video games and. I'm excited about it, though. I'm pretty stoked.
You do like your music, don't you?
I do. I listen to a ton of it. It's crazy, man. Did I tell you I'm officially canceled my Spotify?
No, I didn't know that.
I did. I got on the.
You're on the A train.
I try to pretend like I'm not an Apple fanboy, but if you just look at, it's the ecosystem I'm in, and it brings everything together. It works well. It's a bigger library. It doesn't make sense for me not to.
I understand.
If we're going to spend $10 a month, I might as well spend it on the A train, as you so.
Okay.
Speaking of Apple and their watches, it's been an interesting week for Apple. Early in the week, there was a new Apple Watch band that was announced, and people, because now the third party bands are starting to come out. And you can buy them on Amazon for super cheap, which I probably will be doing that tomorrow. But there's a company called Nico Girard, and they have announced a timepiece that has an Apple Watch lodged within a
Whoa.
Basically, it's an analog watch with a nice metal band, and then at the ends of the bands are the clips to go into your Apple Watch.
What?
So you have the analog watch on one side, the Apple Watch on the other. That way, presumably, you can use it as a health tracker and for notifications and stuff. And you can look at the inside of your wrist for your Apple Watch and the outside of your wrist for your analog watch. It cost a cool $9,300, so it's really expensive. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, it's kind of it begs the question. Is it a watch with is it an Apple Watch band that has a watch in it, or is it a watch with an Apple Watch in the band. Um,
That is so weird.
It is really weird, and it's actually
And
very
pre-orders start at $9,300. Are you joking me?
yeah.
You
Well,
can
and
get a $112,000 18-karat gold option.
yeah. So what's interesting about it is basically it embodies everything that the Swiss is doing wrong with the with watches. It is just it's
This
so
has got to be parody, right? I mean, this can't be real.
no, it's real. And
It doesn't even make sense.
So TechCrunch, I thought, did a pretty good opinion piece on it, just basically breaking down and saying it's ugly. It's not even that sophisticated. It is just a gimmick. It is gimmicky. It's expensive. And it just doesn't make sense anymore. It's overly complicated. It's overly expensive. The Swiss are just not going to keep up with the Apple Watch. Like, all of the predictions are true. And if this is their best, their early entry into competing, what the heck are you guys doing? This is ugly and stupid and uncomfortable and useless and overly expensive. But it got so much worse on Friday because numbers started to come out about watch sales in America in general, and U.S. watch sales fell the most in 7 years in June. One of the first signs Apple Inc.'s watches eroding demand for traditional timepieces. Retailers sold $375 million of watches during the month, 11% less than in June 2014, according to data from blah, blah, blah. The 14% decline in unit sales was the largest since 2008, according to Fred Levin, head of marketing research for the luxury division, which is important to remember that in 2008, we were going through one of the greatest economic crises in America's, in the last 30 years. And so people stopped buying luxury watches. And the only reason they stopped buying luxury watches again wasn't because the stock market took a dip and nobody could afford them. It's because the Apple Watch came out.
Wow.
That, like, all of
I bet Mac Daily News had fun with this article.
I don't even remember them talking about it, to be honest. But I just sit there and I go, this is just
more blood on Apple's hands.
I know.
Like
yeah.
So dramatic.
It just is so clearly one of those, man, that's the way it's going to go. It's not over, but it's going that way. And the traditional, the argument that they really need to reposition themselves not as a timepiece, but as a piece of jewelry, and really embrace the idea of the left-handed watch, as it were, where the opposite hand, your dominant hand, has your beautiful computer on your wrist, and the other hand has your beautiful timepiece if you want to survive.
Ugh. No one would do that. No one would do that. Wow. I'm not surprised, I guess.
I know. It's going to be interesting, the view of the Apple Watch in 5 years, because it's being trumpeted as such a failure right now, and it so clearly isn't. Just every sign you actually look at, it outsold the iPad and the iPhone in their comparative first quarters. It's got great consumer satisfaction as long as you get out of the tech elite. When you actually talk to early adopters, they love it. It's got great satisfaction ratings.
Well, it's going to be so great after a year from now when they refresh it and they say, oh yeah, and you can get last year's gen for $100 cheaper.
Right. Exactly. Man. And on top of it, eventually they're going to come out they're going to make those incremental improvements, and they're going to put a 3G antenna in it. And when they do, everybody's going to be like, oh man, that was really what we were waiting. Like, it's going to go the way of the iPhone, where it has obvious deficiencies that they're going to be able to have a roadmap to close those gaps over time through software and hardware iterations to incentivize you to buy new devices. And they're going to sell a ton of them, and they're going to disrupt an entire market. It's just, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when you talk to people that are like, I heard the Apple Watch isn't doing that well. What are you talking about? And the good news is I actually think it's good news for the entire smartwatch category. I think the Apple's driving a lot of attention, and I think it's not coincidence that the drop in watch sales in luxury watch sales corresponded with the launch of the Apple Watch. But I think this is great news for Android devices too, and Android in general. I think we're going to go to smartwatches. We're going to go to really cool looking smartwatches. That's the direction we're going.
Oh, it's so awesome.
I know. I'm super excited.
Pumped. I love my Pebble. It's great.
I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry.
It's a good little watch.
It is. So did you see, speaking of Back to the Future, did you see Lexus's hoverboard?
No.
They have a hoverboard. Watch the video. Check this out.
It really bugs me that Engadget has this double hash in their URL. I don't know what to do with that. Can I delete that? Can I just keep it? I don't know. It's really weird. I feel like it's a bug.
You can delete it. It's not a bug.
Okay, Lexus takes skateboarders, puts its hoverboard to the test. Is it a video?
Yeah, it's a video.
Okay, here, hold on a second.
I'd watch it with the sound off.
Oh, with the sound off? Okay.
It's just music. It doesn't.
Oh, just music.
Yeah.
Dumb. All right. They got like multiple videos here. They got the story. There's no such thing as impossible. It's just a matter of time. So is it using magnets?
Superconductors on a magnetic track.
What's with the air that blows out of it?
That's the nitrogen blowing off because you have to keep the superconductors super cooled in order to. Yeah. In order to keep the so basically what happens is it's magnetic what's the word? Magnetic locking. Magnetic locking.
Whoa, went over water.
Yeah. I think it's super shallow water, honestly. I think is how they're pulling that shit off. No, but it is cool. Yeah.
I would learn how to skateboard just to do this. Oh, they are using that thing.
I am learning how to.
It's got a. Oh, he just went over water. He didn't quite make it. Just like Marty McFly didn't quite make it.
Exactly.
It needs to get a little bit higher.
Yeah, you can't.
A little bit higher.
Flux pinning is the phenomenon where a superconductor is pinned in space above a magnet. The superconductor must be a type 2 semiconductor due to the fact that type 1 semiconductors cannot be penetrated by magnetic fields. Interesting. The active magnetic penetration is what makes flux pinning possible. At higher magnetic fields, the superconductor allows magnetic flux to enter in a quantized package, also sometimes known as quantum locking, is what they call it. Surrounded by superconducting current vortex, these sites of penetration known as flux tubes, number of flux tubes, blah, 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 blah. Basically allows you to create a little disc that hovers in space, locked in space above the magnet. And if you position your magnets properly, you can actually make tracks so that they don't slip from side to side, and it makes them, rideable the way that they're riding them. It's pretty cool, actually. I mean, they'll never be able to sell it because it doesn't work outside of that particular park that they've made. But
okay, so the park is special.
Yes. They try not to say that, but it is. It's awesome, though. It's fun to watch.
That is awesome indeed.
Yeah. Go to FurloBros.com if you want to see that video. We'll have the link there. Talking about Lexus.
It'd be fun to have an R&D department. How does that happen? Where an engineer's like, I think we can make a hoverboard. I think we can do it.
Yeah.
and have some boss be like, how much do you think it would cost to try to do a prototype of that? $1 million. Let me ask my boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how does that conversation go? I would like to know, because that's pretty awesome.
They're clearly doing it for the media. They I'm sure it was paid for not by the R&D budget, by the marketing budget. that's the point of it. But
yeah, are they working on some other technology and they got done and went, we can make a hoverboard?
I don't think so. I think I get the feeling that it was just a marketing idea. They said, "Hey, can we build a? It's 2015. It's the year of Back to the Future. Can we make a hoverboard?" And the engineer said, "Totally. How much would it cost? Oh, $1 million. Okay. Wait, are you serious? You know,
pick me to do it.
exactly.
Yeah. That's cool, man. It is that year, isn't it?
It is. It's a big deal, man. Okay, so I
like it where one commenter was like, "Oh, it's just a proof of concept," and the other commenter was like, "No need to prove the concept; it's already been done." Oh, I love it. I love commenters. I haven't said so already.
Yeah. So I got two. I'm gonna. How much time do I have?
You got time.
Okay.
You got 15 minutes.
Really? Right. Okay. So did you see
no
any of the fun stuff that Elon Musk did?
I heard there was some sort of like awkward silence.
Yes. It's pretty awesome. It's worth listening to the video if you can.
Okay. Is it take a while to get to the part where he does it?
No, it's actually like clipped out. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Here, hold on.
Okay. Holding.
You're gonna start echoing, but this will make everyone can hear.
I can tell.
Hey, Elon Deepak. First question. Steve Jurvetson was recently quoted saying that Uber CEO Travis Kalanick told him that if by 2020 Tesla's cars are autonomous, that he'd want to buy all of them. Is this a real? I mean, forget like the 2020 for a moment, but is this a real business opportunity for Tesla supplying cars to ride-sharing firms, or does Tesla just cut out the middleman and sell on-demand electric mobility services directly from the company on its own platform?
That's an insightful question.
You don't have to answer it.
I don't think I should answer it.
Okay, let's move on. Second question is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, Elon Deepak. First question.
I loved that audio clip. That's an insightful question.
Wow. Next question.
Yes. You don't have to answer that. Good. Because
I don't know how to say. I don't know how to lie my way through this one.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's everything I would say would be so transparent. It'd be as good as actually saying it. And that's the best part about it. He said it. He said yes. And that was enough. That was awesome. It was cool. It's
funny where it's like, he's got to just be kicking himself on that one. It's like, it didn't handle that one well.
Yeah. He was searching for something to say, and so
you gotta adopt the Steve Jobs MO on that kind of stuff, where when someone nails what it is that you're working on, you just lie through your teeth and say the exact opposite.
Yeah,
that's dumb. We believe that there's joy in people driving, and that will never happen.
Uber is clearly a failed company.
It's dead.
No future.
People don't drive anymore. Wait, I mean, people.
Go yeah, exactly. Go full Donald Trump on it. They're losers. I don't know. It's great. It's cool because it's clearly everybody's thinking the same thing. And do they do it alone? I don't know. Probably not. But maybe, that there's an opportunity there clearly, and everybody's eyeing it and asking, what does that look like? The other cool thing that Tesla did this week was they introduced the beginnings of Dr. Octopus.
Oh my gosh, that was such a creepy yet awesome video.
Yeah. I mean, and it's literally Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. The best of the Spider-Mans.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a giant like metal snake thing with the electric charger at the end of it, and it like kind of basically you'd pull your car up, you'd press a button, the lid for the power connector would open up, and this cool looking shiny metal thing would sort of snake its way around into your electric plug. It's definitely worth watching the
It's
GIF.
kind of creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But
it's got
mesmerizing all the same.
Yeah, it's got a weird way about it. For sure. It's all automated though. It's the future. I love robots. It's so fun to watch.
So cool. Oh my gosh. Don't tell people in Oregon.
Yeah. They haven't really talked about how it works, but it's got 3 actuators in each joint. Each joint's able to actuate independently, and then you can do all the different curves and stuff. It's pretty cool. I don't think Peter Parker has to be freaked out yet, but it's clearly where we're going to be going. Lock 4 of those on, make them artificially intelligent, strap it into your spinal cord, and hope not to nearly cause a...
Just need an inhibitor chip. You're good to go.
Exactly. Unless you nearly cause a nuclear accident and wipe out New York.
Well, just don't do that. It seems pretty obvious.
Be better than that.
Yeah. You now know that doesn't work out well.
You've seen the warnings.
Yeah.
So Chris Sacca, speaking
of
Chris Sacca, he was the dude that knew the Uber CEO, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And he also happens to be one of the biggest investors in Twitter. We've talked about him before. He has a clear vision for what this company should look like. He came out,
and he has a huge blog post to prove it.
Exactly. He came out this week, not a tweet, but a blog post. Ugh.
Oh.
Get on the bandwagon. But he came out this week and basically said Jack Dorsey should be this Twitter CEO, which if you haven't been following along, Jack Dorsey was one of the co-founders of Twitter, left to go start a little company called Square. He is now back as the interim CEO as they are on the search for a new CEO. Sacca says, keep Jack Dorsey. Obvious solution here. Square hasn't IPO'd yet. Partnership? Buyout? Have Square buy Twitter? That seems like a more difficult proposition. I don't actually have any idea who's worth more.
They don't make sense together.
Does
Google buy both?
Yeah, right. Do hot dogs and ketchup make sense together? Yes, but that's a bad example. Yeah, it's not if you're an adult. Mustard only. But I
don't get it. Sure, Jack CEO, great, whatever. But what do you do with Square? I don't think it's one buys the other. I don't think it's a merge. That doesn't make any sense.
So does Jack Dorsey leave Square, go back to Twitter full time? Because that's the complaint, right? That's the concern. Is the Twitter board is saying we don't want a part-time CEO, which was their way of saying quit Square if you want to be our CEO, Jack.
Yeah. Do you just want to swipe plastic for the rest of your life, or do you want to come change the world?
Swiping plastic's pretty cool.
It's not as cool as sugar water.
Yeah. It's kind of something a little more demeaning.
Yeah. Just want to increase the consumer debt in the world. I don't. Okay, I'm trying to put my Jack hat on, right? Like, what would I choose if I was in his shoes? Because I feel like Square has a very obvious way of making money, very clear business plan. It's not quite the huge hot ticket that he had hoped it would be.
Right. Yeah. PayPal has and what was the service that I just signed up for the other day?
Stripe?
Not Stripe. Venmo. PayPal and Venmo have done a pretty good job of competing in a lot of areas with Square, kind of preventing it from becoming the unquestioned dominant player in the market.
Yeah. And so I don't know. But I think Twitter's got the same issue where will it ever go big time? Oh, gosh, I don't know. I just don't know if it has it in it.
Yeah. I get the feeling. I read a really big article the other day that I didn't link about Vine and the sleeping giant that is Vine and the whole video thing. And
is it a sleeping giant?
That's what they were arguing.
I don't have it on my phone anymore.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's just one of those things, and that's a Twitter property. It was built by Twitter. They're just, I don't know. I get the feeling that it's tough. It's tough because, we talk about why is Uber different than Lyft? Why is Facebook different than MySpace? Why is Amazon different than whoever else? There's not really any other competitors. That's a pretty good place to be. But why? Because they're these full stack things. They have core competency that you just see their core product as poking through. What's Twitter's core competency? What is it that they do and they do better than everybody else that nobody else could encroach on and beat?
Real-time news.
Yeah, I think that there's validity there. I think that real-time news and bite-sized content all over the place is useful. And I get the feeling that they're a pretty solid tech company. Their product isn't different enough from Facebook, but they've got a dominant enough platform and good enough mind share where all the things that we've been talking about over the last month or so. But what can Twitter do to become bigger and better and take on the world? I think those things are there. You just need the leadership and to do it and the clarity of purpose to do it. What does Twitter become? And I think if Jack feels like he does, if he's got that, if he's not just going to be a manager going through the motions, keeping the company alive, then you do it. But I don't know what the vision for Square is other than to keep doing what you're doing. Because I think Square at this point, if they just keep trucking away, trying to get more and more small businesses using their Square card reader and getting people onto the whole Square card share thing and come out with an Apple Pay equipped thing. And, they just keep doing what they're doing. They'll incrementally keep fighting for being successful with what they're successful at. And there's a chance that over time not even a chance, but I'd say a pretty good likelihood that over time you can eat away at PayPal's lunch and you can eat away at Venmo, especially Venmo. I think Venmo is way more vulnerable because I don't think Facebook looks at it as nearly as important as a product. It's a successful company that they bought as opposed to what they do and what they care about. I think, but I don't know. I don't get the feeling that Square is. I think Square's path to success is a much longer, slower battle than it would be with Twitter. And so it's got a little less. Okay. But I would say I think it's a little more sure than Twitter's. I think Twitter could fall apart all of a sudden. I don't think Square could.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I'm trying to think which one he thinks is more interesting too, and that's the one he should work on. Honestly, the problem is he likes both.
Yeah, exactly.
Which they're
both really fascinating. They're both children of his. Which child should I give up?
Dude, that is tough.
It is. It is tough. I'd love to have that kind of a problem, but at the same time, I'm not jealous. So the last article that I'm going to talk about today is Oculus Rift announced that virtual reality cinemas are coming. You'll be able to watch movies in a virtual reality cinema with your friends. And the only reason I want to bring that up is because we were so right. It's scary. We're really good at this. Listen to us. This is a perfect example of where we said this is obviously where we're going. And then just a couple of months later, that's exactly what they're building. And it is, I'm telling you, we are months away from somebody announcing the first partnership with a Chris Pratt or somebody like that, where you can watch the movie with commentary sitting next to the star of the movie, where he's cracking jokes, telling you about different scenes, and you're watching it with him. It's going to be awesome.
That does sound awesome. Cool. Dude, you're not getting the Oculus, are you? You're sticking with your Mophie, or what is it? Morpheus?
Dude, it's a Morpheus.
I don't know.
The Sony Morpheus.
I don't know PlayStation. Because I don't have a television yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
I'm super excited for it. Q1 2016. Oh, baby.
Next year.
You know, next year is less than half a year away.
Dude, right?
It's coming up. Year's basically over.
Yeah, we're like, what are we? T-minus 9 days from your birthday, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say a little more than a week,
which is the 8th month of the year.
It is
so
2 months away from your birthday.
We're a month away from Apple's unveiling.
I know. Like, to the day. I can't wait. I'm all saved up. I'm ready to go. Guns are loaded.
That means I got a month to build my entertainment system or center. Very cool, man. Very cool. Just trying to see any last minute things. No, we're not going to talk about Soylent. That changed my mind on that one. All right. Cool. Hey, awesome. This is good times. So, everybody, thank you very, very much for joining us, for listening to episode 202. I had to find it. I'm like, oh, man. What are we up to now? Yeah, 202. Man, that's pretty crazy. So thanks. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget, you can check out all the show notes and all the links at furlobros.com. Again, that is episode 202. I am James Furlo. My fantastically quarter, aka 1/4, brother is Matthew Furlo. And we will talk next time.